But the important thing is we accomplished something. Right, guys? Guys? We crawl inside and light a joint. We stare at each other's flickering faces as the last of the evening fades behind dark clouds. Wisps of necessity spiral around our heads. The necessity of these structures weighs heavy on us like the rattle of Boreas's breath, reminding us no matter our accomplishment or failures, there's always death. To take comfort in death is no small feat. To take comfort in life is monumental. We don't mind it if we can use our snow days creatively, are given the freedom to learn what we must, learn how to build. The igloo of the Inuit was no luxury. The igloo of ours was no joke or frivolous pursuit. The igloo of Nanook provides life. The important thing is that you helped me. We each felt that terrible, beautiful pull of heartstrings that let us know we were onto something, discovering something about snow, even though we simply built an igloo just as meaningless and crucial as poetry. This one I wrote as a wedding present for a friend of mine last month. It's called Across the Always Valley. Why, when so much can be resolved in the running away of the veins of a mountain laurel, when so much can be lived in the breathing of its budding flowers, is there a need to be human? To escape from fate only to fall back into it like a ball on a string? Not to spend this time for happiness, that clutching of moments on moment while falling like an acorn. It does not grasp at the branch as it falls like we do, or itch for the ground. It falls, then comes to rest and grows, sends its thinly veiled fingers crawling into the dark earth to bring about something else, something yet unknown but present, always present from its origins. Or closer, but still falsely, to live for the lament, that naked lady leading us by the tips of our fingers into the mountains of grief. For we can climb, but we cannot go there, cannot pause, cannot stand on the peak like we should, instead motioning for it to be over, not understanding the weight of the snow on our stolid evergreen branches, the resolution that comes with the silence and crackle of winter's lull. But to spend this brief time entranced by the mere existence of ourselves, enraptured by the motion of our palms through the cutting air, basking in the sun's soft stare or dripping warm blood on cool pavement, lingering on that one that exists outside of ourselves and somewhere deeper still in us. Oh, but just this once, just once to be strewn across this earth, just this one earth to have lived and breathed in, to have eaten and sipped from the cup, gives us reason. For surely the earth needs us in its transience, needs us like it needs the laurel and the swan and the stars, so perfect without our input, so resolute in their stasis. Because it is but once we are human. That one is not something we can access in any day or season of our lives. It exists in the eyes of the animal, in the perforated actions of survival. They see nothing but the face of it, while we, distracted by our vision of the future and distortions of the past, gaze past it or through it. But to see in the eyes of a lover, that openness, that naked expectation of something more comes close, possibly closer than anyone has ever come. To blink is to miss it. To stare resolutely is to catch a fleeting outline of the opening of hearts, like the pale pink flowers of the laurel. And you chose her. You, like all else, took measure of your exterior and chose her. And so you climb on, push forward, take the hand of grief and happiness both, and let them lead you down separate, divergent paths. Because in front, walking backwards, with her eyes trained on yours so as not to lose you, she climbs too. With your back on the past and hers on the future, you follow each other, standing propped against the other like a pair of ladders in space, braced only by yourselves. In silent consternation, the brother of trust, you let the one pass through you. Allow it know are helpless to its radiant impulse. Isn't that what it wants? Isn't that what Earth demands more than anything? Openness, transformation, one within the other. You who folds himself so silently into her quaking soul are respected, raised up to share but briefly in the joy of the budding springtime. She lives and she flowers in you, so that when each of you grows, as you must, like the leaves towards winter, there is spread out beyond you the vast expanse of our own lives, and briefly glimpsed, the always valley, tipping towards nothing but the bonds of humans and stars. I'd like to read one more. I like to read this one at all the new open mic nights that I go to. I call it Mincing Words. I wrote it shortly after Robin Williams' death, but I really wrote it for Virginia Woolf, I think. Poets should not commit suicide. Poets should not commit suicide and leave the world a mess of noise, no rhythm, color, rhyme. Poets should not commit suicide and leave me full of bourbon with empty ears and eyes. Without a Tennyson would we have loved or lost? What is frost mending to the Berlin Wall? Do poets make love, or does love make poets? Can you point to words and hold them in your hand? Poets should live to love, to suffer, to walk through rain like tears, to mince words and feed us from their harrowed hand. Poets should not commit suicide and leave us with the ambiguity of creation and creator. And leave us with the ambiguity of creation. And leave us with the ambiguity. Poets should be brushed by pasts, a preacher and a canvas. Poets should be afraid to die before they touch the sky. Poets should not commit suicide. Thank you.
All right, first time at Mahall. So everybody give it up again for Paul Ryland. Paul Ryland, excellent. Next up, a regular, fairly regular here at Mahall's Mondays, Marc Mannheimer. Give it up for Marc.
All right, Marc.
Got three here. First one is called Moment by Moment. Moment by moment, we see the healing of all wounds in all beings of all worlds, with no insurance, without a prescription, with hands over hearts, hers and yours braided together, the three ingredients in a poultice that hold infinity, quaking, love. This one's called The Same Catastrophe. This kind of sums up my philosophy of life, which is kind of like foreboding for like a really bad poem, but nevertheless, this is kind of like my philosophy of wall of the mental and spiritual law. The same catastrophe. This idea is contraindicated by that. Take this one once at bedtime, that twice in the morning, both as often as possible, any time in between. Take them in your dreams. You see, you are not special, but you're spectacular. Neither woodshed nor windstorm, but the impact, the demolition and the rebuilding. Two sides of the same catastrophe. You are a single event in time, not separate from any other. You are a portion of the divine, and each portion the whole. This is called Kick in the Stomach. Is there a word glumness? Glumness?
Sure.
Is there
now?
Okay. I may revise this. Let's okay. Kicked in the stomach. Glum is not impressed by 110% effort in the morning when you've been kicked in the stomach and the lead balloon of will is deflated. Glum needs home fries, turkey sausage and eggs, whole wheat toast, lightly buttered. But the diner is on the other side of the shower you will not see today. Glum responds best to that song by the Information Society when everyone who inhabited the 80s thought that band was on the superhighway to a spectacular stardom. But you will miss that Sirius station rotation. No orange juice without extra pulp either. On this morning when you are a dead lead Hindenburg. Pure energy. Glum needs pure energy. You cannot muster blood for blushing, milk for custard, no rising to meet your New Year's resolution. You slink back into bed to mutate your evolution in your second wind of dreams. Thanks.
One more time for Marc Mannheimer. All right, I'm going to interject myself here, I guess. So this is a kind of weird poem. So there's a word that's going to have a fair amount of background. There's a word called evert, the verb to evert. So it's not invert or divert or convert, but it's related to that. So when you like take your pants, if your pants are inside out, and you redo it so they're inside, turning something inside out again is to evert it. Okay. And the minute I learned eversion, it kind of got me, I don't know, it just made me think of like everting your consciousness. So kind of this mess up of inside and outside. Well, if you trace the E in the eversion back, that E goes to an Indo-European root, eggs. And that eggs is the basis of things like emotion, evolution, education, excellence, eversion. Okay, so this is just kind of a meditation on that kind of winding. Oh, in the word, the Indo-European root means to twist or wind. Okay, so it's about sort of like winding and gnarling around, sort of. Anyway, so that's where this is coming from, and it's called. The title of this is Nose Candy for Emotional Eversion. Above all, emotion is motion. As will, volition. Above all, evolution. And the line of transition, the E in education, in excellence, eversion, expression, outside, former, not, and nout, outside in, inside out, polemics all but not all about. That there could be a substance past, a former substance beyond its last, and lasting past the last of lasting, expressed, made fast in blessed blessing. Time is the geometry of motion. Memory, time's conscience. And in its transience, its intransigent, transients, dog noses in a car window planet. Miles of trumpet ripple syllabic valentines. Past the ghost of massacres past. The hungry ghost of massacres voracious. Unseen and obscene, we squandered to the last. Hoarded breath of uncertain morrow. Thank you very much. Next up, Jayce Renner. Give it up for Jayce Renner.
So this poem is for someone who's here tonight. Her name's Brianna. So this is at the Blue Jazz Club in Akron for Brianna. At the Blue Jazz Club in Akron, we listen as the quartet plays standards. A pianist/singer, bassist, drummer, and tenor sax/flute. The sax player's solos sound like Coltrane-influenced Art Pepper, yet with accessible emotion. But most of the time, he seems pleased by filling in barely audible notes and riffs. The sax player looks a lot like Drew Carey. He even does the smiling, self-effacing slump. She asks me, "Can we take him home with us?" "Sure," I say. Sitting in front of us is a man and a woman in their 80s maybe. He is bald with rolls of flesh on the back of his spotted head, and she has a halo of white hair that never moves. During a slower Latin number, her arthritic hands beat his shoulders in rhythm, and she fondly caresses his rolls. I asked Brianna, "Is that what we'll be like in 40 years?" "No," she says, "I won't have hair like that, and you won't have those rolls." So I got a couple more I could read, I guess. This is from my days working in restaurants. Mash it down. "You see that thing there? Mash it down. Make it work. Yeah, that thing there. Mash it down like that. Make sure it's down. It has to be down, or else it won't work. What about this piece right here? It needs cut. Right here. Well, go on. Cut it. Oop, look what you did. Now I have to eat it. Burn it. It's supposed to be burnt. Says so right here on the box. Put some fire on it. Burn it good." Okay, one more. Winter words. The opening of things, the closing to. Light fades around the corner. The mind is a palimpsest. Layers of half-forgotten musings recede into the background and surge forward when aligned with the foreground pattern of the present, the sun obscured by clouds, our star reduced to a plain white disk. Over the course of hours, the snow piles up, a shivering blanket for the land. Inside, I remain warm, huddled under covers, hats, wool socks, cotton sweaters. The hours count the words, too. They drift and sway down, a thin blanket for the page. One word buried by the next, laying about, loitering in the mind.
Thank you, Jayce. Next up, Cassandra. Cassandra. Let's hear it for Cassandra.
So I have 3 poems that I'd like to read. So I appreciate you listening. The first one is called Inshallah. 805 deaths this year due to Ohio traffic accidents. The highway sign blinks several times before the sun has fully risen. 805, this number stays with me all day, and the message underneath, pay attention, go slowly. 701 died yesterday in Mina on Eid. The people panicked on the annual holy pilgrimage while walking to Mecca. It wasn't the walking which caused the deaths, but the stoning. Panic in the crowd turned to stampede on a day of what should have been a religious dedication. Aziz in class blames it on the Iranians who flooded from the border. 701. I think of the small, forgotten, crushed bird I spotted last night as I walked back from a street festival in Cleveland. The deer split open in the middle of the road while driving with a friend home. The unburied, nameless, and forgotten. Go slowly, pay attention, friends. This is called Best Guess. In New Mexico, the Sangre de Cristos shine above all else at midnight. Their caps of snow tint blood red as the moon in its pierced rawness envelops the earth. The stars close enough to touch, to believe any wish will come true. These stars are the last lick of fine finish on the seal of the sky. Only the coyotes cut the silence in spontaneous bursts when, while walking to shut the chicken coop, gathering the cat or firewood from leftover blown-out twigs that feed a house of hungry farmers' children devouring salted buttered corn, or over the soft murmurs of lovers in bedsheets who whisper their secrets with tangled limbs. One has to stop and listen, a coyote howl, a cry unknown in its motives, our best guesses, hunger, fear, captivity, sorrow, or maybe joy. This is called The Real Way to Play a Singing Bowl. She led me to the back room, a hidden pathway in the public library in Coventry, a secret tunnel to drapes of burgundy. What's it like to be in a room of Tibetan monks? It is breathing in the sea breeze of peace. It is the scent of mountains brought from another era. It is as if finally there is nowhere else to go. What is it like to sit next to a Tibetan monk? Nerve-wracking at best, awe-inspiring at worst. What do you talk about when sitting next to a Tibetan monk? The Cleveland weather never fails. We opened like lotus flowers in that room. 20 minutes later, it was broken by a flood of grubby hands who fondled their worldly treasures, handmade scarves from Nepal, Indian silk bags, stone and gem necklaces. I watched one man grab greedily, having his way at a Tibetan singing bowl. As I clutched my own small gifts given in silence, his song came out in discordant sound. One monk, without saying a word, picked up the bowl next to him, showed him with his firm face and methodical circular motions the real way to play a singing bowl.
Okay, and our last open mic poet of the evening, the fabulous Charles Cicirella. Charles Cicirella. Last month's feature, and I'm sorry, I forgot. Please give a round of applause, a second round of applause to Cassandra. Cassandra, and now the fabulous Charles Cicirella.
You got me? I don't know. Well, because I'm shorter, I'm only asking. You never.
You're fine.
This is called I'm drinking. I'm sitting next to somebody who is drinking, so I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the burn. Thanks for reading the topical poem, Jayce. Wreckage. 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 No one's paying attention. Perhaps I was late to the game, but I am finally starting to understand. If you don't give a crap, then no one is going to care about you either. Maybe if you're lucky, an advocate will come forward when you're lying on a pallet on the floor, dying from diarrhea or starvation or a simple lack of empathy. But more than likely, you will die alone without even a birthday cake to call your very own. People say, ask for help if you're hurting, when actually, no one really wants to listen to you crying in the wilderness. Even John the Baptist had to wait around for Jesus. And look how that turned out. Welcome to America, where we baptize you in the blood of children, while lip service and prayer service are doing nothing for anyone, including those poisoned in Flint, Michigan. I'm starting to believe it has nothing whatsoever to do with the bottom line, as the haves do everything they possibly can with their co-opted power to completely wipe out the have-nots. If you don't believe me, just look at all the ways our homeland has devised to murder blacks and push back on anyone who isn't white and of means, and are a reminder that the American dream was intended for everyone, and not just those with guns and a fat bank account and the inability to possess any honest-to-God compassion. I'm wrecked on White Castle cheeseburgers and my own powerlessness to pull myself out of this self-appointed nosedive. But that's okay. Hey, that's okay, dude. Because I swear to God, I've never been less of a liability, no matter what you may choose to believe. We need to push past the barriers and believe again in civil disobedience for and not against the people. We need to stop electing leaders who pander and capitulate to the lowest common denominator, while not giving even a second thought to those who are actually in need of some heavenly aid. We need to get it through our thick skulls once and for all that bullies don't make good leaders, and also keep in mind that just because someone is a politician, that doesn't automatically mean they're on the wrong side of the issues. I got the biggest stick I could find, and I poked around the wreckage looking for some ideals I could actually do something with. I became enamored with those who believed anything was and still is possible. Because without hope, fear is just another growling dog with no real purpose. I understand these may in fact be the end times, and yet I refuse to give up, because surrender has never been in my DNA. Please keep in mind, it is always darkest before the dawn. And a slow train is coming up around the bend.
Thank you, Charles Cicirella. Give it up for Charles. All right, and why don't we have a round of applause for all the open micers tonight? Come on, everybody. Thanks for your participation in the open mic. So, again, if people have their 3x5 cards and want to vote, make sure you get I know a bunch of people handed them to me already, but if you haven't handed in your 3x5 card, give me a 3x5 card. And remember, next month it's going to be lottery for a mini feature, 3 mini feature lottery. And then the month after that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Suzanne DiGaetano, okay? All right, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Come on back. See you next time.
I didn't know Suzanne was Italian until now.